We can talk now to Murat Aslan, a military expert on Gaza and an associate professor of international politics at Hassan Khayrouk University. Professor Aslan, thanks for joining us. Israel's military pause has been much welcomed internationally, but from your view, how meaningful is this strategically?
Well, in terms of military thinking, you have to check the ultimate goal, the initial intention, identify tasks, and then you can question exactly how meaningful it is to decide on a pause on daily basis between certain hours. Well, I see that there's no change regarding the goals because the goal is to evacuate Gaza and West Bank. And what I see that they are just playing for time. And there are some certain differences in terms of event time charts, though. It's very clear that Israel's goal is still the same. For instance, they had a negotiation with Syria, and one minister of them claimed that if Syrians receive Palestinians, then there will be a normalization between Syria and Israel. That means they are playing for Palestinians' lives, and they are negotiating just to evacuate it. So there is no change, and pause is something to gain time, and that's it.
Professor, you've suggested this pause is internal politics more than humanitarian pressure. What exactly do you think Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to achieve domestically with this pause?
You know, Israeli policy has always been fragmented, but today it's extremely divided because Netanyahu is trying to balance ultra-conservatives, conservatives, leftists, or extreme leftists. In this picture, some of the political parties demand the continuation of the current situation, and the others demand a sort of ceasefire for the release of captives. On the other hand, if you go and check the settlers, there are some settlers trying to push Palestinians back from West Bank, and also the others demanding elections. There is a great division in the society as well. So a permanent ceasefire means an early election, and the opposing parties will demand an early election. So that's what Netanyahu do not want it. And that's why he has to pledge some sort of concessions to the conservatives. So now we are here because there will be no change in terms of politics then.
Will this make the opposition leaders back off a little bit? Do you think that that's the overall plan from Netanyahu when he puts something like this into play? That move seems like it's potentially just to pacify them temporarily.
Well, there's a great pressure from the other communities all across the globe, especially publics are rising up and they are denouncing the current developments in Gaza. So that's why Israeli politics are observing exactly to what extent Israeli economy, Israeli politics would be harmed. In this sense, I believe they are pretending to take some measures just to urge the international society that they are complying with the international law. And there will be a court decision, in the coming months. That's important for Israel. And that's why internal politics is much more focused on the reactions of the other communities. Otherwise, for instance, an Israeli cannot go a regular country as a tourist because they feel themselves under pressure. That's why politics is on track of these developments.
You've mentioned as well that normalization within the wider MENA region is clashing with the events in Gaza. Could this limited pause potentially smooth over those efforts?
The countries in need of having a support of the United States or Israel, they are normalizing. And Morocco is one significant case. Sub-Saharan region is in their area of interest, and they normalized with Israel. And there are some Jewish community living in Morocco, so that may be another factor. But some African countries, well, they are searching for either material support or sometimes they have a political issue and they want to have the, backing of the United States or Israel. So that's why. Then such sort of pause may be an excuse, especially to tell the local public of these countries that they may have an agreement with Israel and there's a sort of easement in Gaza.
International law is increasingly in the spotlight. This ICJ case is looming as well. Is the shift in tone that we're seeing in the last 24 hours from Netanyahu driven by legal calculation, do you think?
Well, first of all, we have to mention something. We need a rule of law that's based on order. But now we are subjected to rule of power. In this picture, the one who feels weaker or who are weaker, then that's for sure they will lose it. I think international law is really important to be observed, especially just war conceptualization, the conventions that clearly depicts the war, conflicts, or genocide. In this sense, Israel will experience some hardships because jus ad bellum, jus in bello, these are the two principles of international law regulating especially the conflicts. And well, jus in bello, that means how to proceed a war, is totally violated, especially appropriate usage of force or protection of civilians or excessive use of power. These are the norms should be observed, and unfortunately, Israel did not.
And finally, before we let you go, is there any indication that this 10-hour-a-day pause could be something longer term or strictly a political tactic just for now?
Well, this is not the first time there is a temporary ceasefire or an arrangement. That means there's no trust of each other. I mean, either Hamas or Israel. So any sort of pause, well, I think it does not have any credibility. If both parties agree on a terms of ceasefire with a clear guarantees to Hamas, why not? On the other hand, we have to focus on the civilians in Gaza, not only Hamas, because civilians in Gaza are not the same as Hamas. So that's why I think the practice of Israeli army is really important in predicting such sort of pauses.
Murat Aslan, Associate Professor of International Politics at Hassan University, thank you so much.